And this is the moment where everything stops being theoretical and starts becoming real. Because up until now, Tommy has been thinking in possibilities. What if Cammy calls? What if Mech collapses? What if Galeno steps in? But Season 3 begins to shift that what if into something much more dangerous. What now? Because the signs are no longer distant. They are immediate. They are happening. And they are starting to affect him whether he likes it or not. CTT, the one thing Tommy believed he could control, is already feeling the pressure. And not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in a slow, suffocating way. The kind that creeps in quietly. Deals that almost close but don't. Partners who suddenly become cautious. Small operational issues that shouldn't be a big deal, but start stacking up. And in this business, stacking problems are never random. They are signals that something underneath is shifting. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the more these issues appear, the more it starts to feel like CTT is not just struggling, it is being tested, pushed. Almost like someone is watching how Tommy reacts under pressure, how he prioritizes, how far he is willing to go to protect what he is building. And if that is true, then this is not bad luck. This is strategy. And if there is one person capable of playing that kind of long game, it is Galeno. Think about it. Tommy steps out, tries to build something independent, and suddenly the path forward becomes unstable. Not completely blocked, just difficult enough to force him into making harder choices. And at the exact same time, Mech is collapsing in a way that practically demands his attention. Two separate problems, both pulling him in opposite directions, both impossible to ignore. That is not coincidence. That is pressure from both sides. And the more Tommy tries to balance it, the clearer it becomes. Balance is not possible here, because every move he makes for CTT starts to cost him something at Mech. And every moment he considers helping Cammy starts to weaken what he is trying to build. It is like standing in the middle of two falling structures and realizing you cannot hold both up at the same time. One of them is going to collapse. The only question is, which one is he willing to lose? But just when it feels like this situation could not get more complicated, it does. Because the pressure is no longer just external. It starts coming from inside his own world, his family, his closest circle, the people who are directly affected by whatever decision he makes next. Angela, who has always been the quiet strength behind him, is starting to see something change. Not in the situation, but in Tommy himself. The hesitation, the distraction, the way his focus is splitting in directions that cannot be sustained. And for the first time, she is not just supporting him, she is questioning him. Not aggressively, not emotionally, but in a way that forces him to face something he has been avoiding. What exactly is he trying to prove? Because if T was supposed to be about freedom, then why does it already feel like another trap? And if helping Cammy is about responsibility, then where does it end? How much does he give before there is nothing left to protect? These are not easy questions. And the worst part, there are no clean answers. At the same time, the ripple effects of all this pressure start reaching beyond just Tommy. Cooper and Ariana, who seemed like they were finally moving towards something stable, something hopeful, are now standing on uncertain ground again. Not because of their own actions, but because the world around them is becoming unstable. And in a story like this, stability is fragile. It does not take much for the past to come back and complicate everything. And that is what makes this season feel heavier than anything before it. Because it is not just about power anymore, it is not just about business. It is about how every decision starts affecting people who are not even part of the original conflict. People who become collateral damage in a situation they did not create. And Tommy sees that. He understands that whatever he does next is not just about him winning or losing. It is about what happens to everyone connected to him. His family, his future, his identity. So now, the situation becomes even more intense. Because this is no longer about choosing between Mech and CTT, this is about choosing between who he was and who he is trying to become. And here is the part no one is ready to admit. What if those two versions of Tommy cannot exist at the same time? What if saving one means destroying the other? Because the deeper this goes, the more it starts to feel like Tommy is not being forced to make a decision. He is being forced to make a sacrifice. And the real question is, when that moment comes, will he even recognize what he is losing? And this is where everything finally comes together, not in a clean, satisfying way, but in the kind of way that makes you realize there was never going to be an easy outcome. Because by the time we reach this point in Season 3, the pressure on Tommy is no longer building. It is closing in. Every direction he looks, every option he considers, leads back to the same truth. There is no move here that doesn't cost him something real. CTT, the one thing that was supposed to represent his independence, is now standing on unstable ground. And not because Tommy is failing, but because the environment around him is shifting in ways he cannot fully control. Investors start becoming impatient. Timelines begin tightening. And the quiet support that once felt like an advantage now starts to feel like leverage being used against him. Because when money is involved at this level, it is never just support. It comes with expectations. And expectations, when they are not met, turn into pressure. The kind of pressure that does not ask, it demands. And then there is Galino. Because at this stage, it becomes almost impossible to ignore what he is doing. The influence, the timing, the way both Mech and CTT are being pulled into unstable territory at the exact same moment. It starts to feel coordinated, controlled, like a system being tightened from both ends until the person in the middle has no space left to move. And that person is Tommy. Now think about the position he is in. If CTT collapses, everything he risked to build his independence is gone. His credibility, his future, the promise he made to himself and his family, all of it disappears. But if Mech collapses, that is not just a business failure. That is something personal. That is a system he helped build, a legacy tied to people he still respects, falling apart while he stands on the outside doing nothing. And here is the part that changes everything. Cammy finally reaches out, not with confidence, not with authority, but with something we have not really seen from her before: vulnerability. Because at this point, there is no more pretending, no more delay. The situation has gone too far, and the only option left is the one she tried to avoid from the beginning: asking Tommy for help. But this is not a simple conversation. Because when she reaches out, she is not just asking for his expertise. She is asking him to step back into a world he fought to leave behind. A world that nearly consumed him before. A world that is now even more dangerous because of Galino's growing control. And the moment Tommy even considers saying yes, everything he has been building with CTT is put at risk. So now, we are at the moment that defines the entire season. Tommy has two choices: walk away completely, protect CTT, protect his future, let Mech deal with the consequences of decisions that were not his, and finally, choose himself over everything else.